Sometimes I look at the lake and marvel at her peacefulness and serenity, and I wish for more of that in my life. Sometimes I look at the lake and I'm impressed at her madness and power, and I wish that I could harness that strength for my moments of doubt. Sometimes I look at the lake and hull her shades of blue and realize her changing colors are often a reflection of my changing moods. Always I look at the lake and feel deeply that we are kindred spirits, and I am humbled to be a part of her wonder and beauty.
We were told to follow the shell,
like a breath from the past,
to where a promise waited, hidden in the waves and sky.
Monument, the gift of the lake.
And the journey would awaken something ancient within us.
Meiji Sotaminawin, Bimadisuin.
This is Bayfield, Wisconsin, a small town tucked between the hills and the shoreline of Lake Superior. A year-round population of just over 600, but in summer, the streets swell with thousands, drawn here for the festivals, the apples, and the pull of the lake. Walk downtown and you'll pass brightly painted shops, family-run cafes, art galleries, and a local bookstore. The pace is slow, the smiles are real, the kind of place where people wave to each other, even if they've never met. From June through August, boats carry hundreds of visitors out across the water each day, to hike, to paddle, to feel something wild and unshaped. But this place is more than a destination. It's a gateway. Just beyond Bayfield is the Red Cliff Band of the Lake Superior Chippewa, an Ojibwe nation deeply rooted in these lands. Farther east lies Bad River, a broad, low-lying river plain where the water slows before it joins the lake. These are not just nearby towns, they are sovereign Ojibwe nations, where language, ceremony, and life ways endure, where connection to land and water isn't symbolic, it's essential. And just off this shore lie the Apostle Islands, a chain of 21 wild, weathered, and sacred places. And though Madeline Island is the largest of them all, it stands apart. Not part of the National Lakeshore, but never apart from the story. To understand this region, to truly feel its weight, you have to look beyond the surface. This is a gateway to the islands, to the past, and to the spirit of the lake itself. And that story goes back much farther than most realize. Before the newcomers arrived, before maps gave these waters names, there were prophecies. One of them, the Seven Fires prophecy, carried a warning. It told the Anishinaabe, the Ojibwe, that a time was coming when powerful outsiders would push into their homelands from the east, bringing new beliefs, new weapons, new diseases, and a deep threat to their culture, their language, their way of life. If the people stayed where they were, everything could be lost. But the prophecy also offered hope, a path forward, a vision of survival. They were told to follow the direction of the setting sun, to seek a land where food grows on water. And so they began from the Atlantic coast through the St. Lawrence River, past Lakes Ontario, Huron, and Michigan, generation after generation, guided by dreams, by ceremony, and by the sacred Magus shell, a symbol of their connection to the Great Spirit. They stopped at key places along the way, lighting fires, building communities, and listening deeply to the land. This was a migration that spanned centuries and thousands of miles, through harsh winters, through hunger, through loss. But always they carried the vision of the place where manumin, wild rice, grew in abundance. When they reached the shores of Kichigami, the great lake we now call Superior, they found it. Near what is now the Bad River area, they discovered vast beds of wild rice, food growing on water, just as the prophecy had foretold. And just across the channel, on Moningwanakuning, the home of the golden-breasted woodpecker, today known as Madeline Island, they made their spiritual home. Here at La Pointe, they built lasting villages, held ceremonies, shared teachings. Here, the prophecy was fulfilled. It is a story of survival, of resisting the forces of colonization, the fur trade, disease, forced relocation, and broken treaties. And still, the Ojibwe remain. Their language lives, their traditions thrive, their connection to this land endures, unbroken. Today, this story matters more than ever because it is not just history, it is a shared story, a call to listen, to honor, to protect, to walk in partnership, to preserve Ojibwe culture, protect these islands, and care for this land and water for generations to come. And we're off. The Madeline Island Ferry makes this 4-mile trip dozens of times a day, spring, summer, and fall, carrying visitors, locals, and a steady stream of island-bound energy. Out here, Lake Superior stretches wide, deep, clear, and cold. Some say it holds secrets, others say it remembers everything. And as the shoreline drifts away, you can feel it, that sense of crossing into something older, freer. This isn't just a boat ride, it's a portal. From the charming town of Bayfield to the largest, most storied island on all of Lake Superior. In just 25 minutes, you'll arrive in La Pointe, where bikes, mopeds, and golf carts roll down tree-lined roads. Art galleries and cafes welcome wanderers, and beaches beg for barefoot strolls. Rent a kayak, pitch a tent, browse the museum, catch live music at a lakeside bar, or just browse the breeze. It usually knows the way. Madeline Island is one of the 22 Apostle Islands, but it's the only one where people live year-round. The others belong to the National Lakeshore. Madeline belongs to herself and to everyone who lands here. So whether you're here for an afternoon or a week, with the self-guided tour map from the Madeline Island Chamber of Commerce, your island adventure begins the moment you leave the dock. Welcome to the Madeline Island Museum, owned and operated by the Wisconsin Historical Society. Its doors opened on June 15, 1958. It was built right where the American Fur Company's northern outfit once stood. In fact, the main building was originally one of their warehouses, so when you step inside, you're walking through living history. Back in the day, longtime summer residents Leo and Bella Casper, along with Islander Al Galazan and historian Hamilton Nelson Ross, were instrumental in bringing this museum to life. Galazan discovered important archaeological sites across the island, and objects from those digs formed the foundation of the museum's collection. They gathered arrowheads, tools, beadwork, traditional clothing, each piece speaking of life before roads, before settlers, when Madeline Island was a center of Anishinaabe life. Look closely at the beadwork. Many of these intricate pieces are astonishing in their precision, but there's a quiet humility woven into them, because in keeping with tradition, artists would intentionally misplace a single bead to avoid the pride of perfection. It's a beautiful reminder. Creation is sacred, but boasting has no place in it. In 2023, the Casper Center Gallery introduced the Convergence exhibit, featuring the contemporary work of 6 Anishinaabe women artists. Their creations connect past and present, showing how the threads of identity, story, and resilience carried forward. Then in 2024, Passages arrived, an exhibit about memory, movement, and survival. At its heart is a 500-year-old dugout canoe, unearthed by World War II veteran and island resident Robert Coffin. He found it buried in the sands near Big Bay. It's a relic of waterborne life, carved by hand and used to navigate these same waters. A vessel that still speaks. In the early 1850s, the United States government attempted to remove the Ojibwe from their homelands. They were ordered to travel to Sandy Lake, far to the west, under promises of annuity payments. Instead, they were met with delay, deprivation, and death. Over 400 Ojibwe died from starvation, freezing temperatures, and disease. It became known as the Sandy Lake Tragedy. Out of that heartbreak rose a determined elder, Chief Buffalo. Though advanced in age, he led a small delegation to Washington, D.C., carrying birch bark scrolls marked with clan symbols, living messages from his people. He met with President Millard Fillmore, not as a victim, but as a statesman. His courage secured what diplomacy alone could not: the right for his people to remain in their ancestral lands, a decision that saved communities, culture, and the spirit of the lake's first people. Artifacts from that journey are here: images of the delegation, the scrolls, the letters, and the stories not just told, it's felt. Among the most powerful areas of the museum is the exhibit devoted to Father Frederick Baraga, the snowshoe priest. He arrived at La Pointe in 1835 and founded a Catholic mission that would have a deep impression on both settler and Ojibwe communities. He learned the Ojibwe language, published a dictionary, and composed hymns in their tongue. Here you'll see his robe, unconfirmed, linked by some to miraculous healing, and the original iron cross from the first church he built on the island. Just down the road from the museum, near today's marina, a stone marker stands. It reads, "Site of the first Catholic church built by Father Frederick Baraga, 1835. Directly across from that marker is one of the island's most haunting and sacred places, the La Pointe Indian Cemetery. Established around 1836, this cemetery reflects a unique merging of cultures. The Christianized Ojibwe adopted the white man's house-like structure for graves, not to copy, but to protect, to shelter both the deceased and the food left behind, and a gift to the spirits who would share with those still living. It is a resting place, but not forgotten, a spiritual bridge as much as a historical one. The Madeline Island Museum isn't just about what happened here, it's about what endures. From the resilience of the Ojibwe, to the vision of those who saved the island's stories, to the hands that still care for every artifact today. I'm still on Madeline Island. Feel great. Reason? Did you know that Madeline Island has the greatest concentration of natural medicines found anywhere on Lake Superior? It's amazing. Feel wonderful. I had occasion to meet with an elder from Red Cliff Reservation, and we had several talks today and yesterday, and he pointed out this place, Big Bay Point. He said, go out, check it out, look out into the lagoon, and know that this is the original landing site of indigenous peoples, 800 AD. Check it out. Look at this. Got Lake Superior off to our right. It's roaring, but what an oasis this would have been for those folks to set up camp, hunting camps, fishing camps, their communities, and safety from the big waters of Lake Superior. Just beyond the harbor town of Bayfield lie the Apostle Islands, a chain of sandstone jewels shaped by wind, by wave, tempered by time, each with its own voice, its own memory. 21 islands spread like a constellation across Superior's cold waters, once home to fishermen, loggers, lighthouse keepers, now watched over by the National Park Service and the Friends of the Apostle Islands, who help preserve these wild shores and the stories they carry. Not all of those stories are written down. Some live in the rock, some echo in the trees, and some are still waiting to be heard. To explore the islands is to step into those stories. There are many ways to begin. Some visitors hop aboard the Apostle Islands Cruises, the official tour operator of the National Park Service. Their grand tour carries hundreds each day past lighthouses, sea caves, and shorelines carved by time. But for those seeking something more personal, more immersive, there is another way. I met up with Susan Nelson, a seasoned mariner and Coast Guard licensed captain, who offers private charters through her company, Wild Pursuits.
Sure. So I grew up coming up here in the summer times with my family. My father was a scuba diver and he dove on all the shipwrecks up here, which in Lake Superior there are over 350 shipwrecks. And my brother and I would get dropped off at an island while my dad went scuba diving. So this was my childhood playground. And when we got an opportunity 5 years ago to move up here to what I consider my paradise, we jumped on it. And it's been my honor to start Wild Pursuits to share this area with other people.
With Captain Sue at the helm, we set off on a 4-hour journey to one of the most storied and hauntingly beautiful islands on all of Lake Superior, the legendary Devil's Island. Along the way, a few special places call for a closer look. in the trees on Manitou Island, a lone fish camp still stands, weathered and unassuming. But this shoreline once thrummed with life. Here, a man could make a living from the lake, if he was strong, if he was lucky. This was seasonal, punishing work. Crews lived in crude bunkhouses, woke before the sun, set nets in cold water. They hauled in whitefish, lake trout, herring, by hand, by boat, by sheer will. Fish were cleaned and packed in ice, some smoked right here in cedar sheds, others shipped off to Duluth, Ashland, Chicago. This camp on Manitou is the last of its kind, now preserved by the National Park Service, not rebuilt, not romanticized, just left as it was. Manitou was just one piece of a much larger story. By the late 1800s, the Apostle Islands were at the heart of a commercial fishing boom. Major operations like Booth Fisheries, Bayfield Fish Company, and Olson Brothers ran fleets out of Bayfield, Washburn, and nearby ports. Families built their lives around these waters, and while the industry has changed, a few local operators still cast their nets, keeping alive the knowledge, the rhythm, and the deep-rooted traditions of fishing on Superior.
Welcome to Raspberry Island.
Raspberry Island is calm now, but the keepers who served here knew a different side of this lake. In 1887, Francis Jacker, the lone lighthouse keeper, saw a storm brewing. He launched the station's small sailboat, hoping to move it to safety, but the winds turned on him. Jacker was swept across the channel, stranded for nearly 3 days on Oak Island, with no food, fire, or way to signal for help. Cold and exhausted, he waited. His wife, worried by his silence, called for help. A search party reached him just in time. That near tragedy led to a second keeper being assigned to Raspberry Island. Even those who tend the light need someone watching their back. Today, the National Park Service with the Friends of the Apostle Islands cares for this place, preserving more than buildings, preserving stories. And still, the light endures, a reminder of those who stood watch, even when no one was watching them. They call it Devil's Island. The edge of the archipelago, the northernmost reach of the Apostle Islands. A place where the wind carves voices into stone and the lake keeps its secrets deep. These caves are more than scenery. They are deep-worn scars carved in Precambrian stone, shaped by time, ice, and the lake's fury. Rock, nearly 1 billion years old. Here, wave by wave, winter by winter, Lake Superior has hollowed out cathedrals, vaulted chambers of blood-red stone. The Anishinaabe never called this place Devil's Island. To them, this was a place of power, where Manitou spirits roamed the cliffs, and warnings came not from maps, but from the water itself. Beneath the waves, they say Mishipishu stirs, the horned water panther, keeper of copper, master of storms. When the winds howl through these caverns, some say it's his voice you can hear. But humans came anyway. This lighthouse, built in 1901, was part of a chain of beacons, Apostle Island's sentinels, guiding ships between the islands, away from the wrath of the open lake. Sailing Lake Superior was never safe. Storms came fast, wrecks were many, but to brave the open water was worse. So captains hugged the islands, threading narrow passages by starlight and steam, and the lighthouses were their only salvation. However, even here, salvation had its shadows. Lighthouse keepers spoke of things they could not explain, doors opening on windless nights, footsteps echoing from empty halls, a bell ringing after it was removed. The lake never forgets, and neither does this island. These caves speak, they echo with voices that do not belong to the wind or to this time. Some say they are the cries of those who never made it home. Others say the island itself is alive, and it remembers everyone who's come too close. This is Devil's Island, a place where stone breathes and the lake listens. Where geology, myth, and memory are carved into every cliff, and no voice ever really fades. Some of these islands, like Basswood, bear the scars of industry. Stone once carved here built breakwalls, lighthouses, even cities. But today that same stone is used to protect what remains. From here, the National Park Service welcomes thousands of visitors every year, guiding not just where to go, but how to experience these islands with respect and wonder. Park rangers patrol the waters, maintain trails, and ensure the safety of campers, paddlers, and boaters. They're first responders, educators, and stewards of the land. And they're not alone. The Friends of the Apostle Islands work hand in hand with the Park Service, supporting conservation, access, and education through all seasons. They've made boating and kayaking safer with Wave Watch buoys, providing real-time lake conditions. They've helped build accessible trails and launches so more people, regardless of ability, can explore these wild shores. They support the Junior Ranger program, restore historic sites, and even plant the flowers that bloom at Raspberry Island Lighthouse. This is more than a park. It's a living, breathing experience, shaped by those who care for it and those who come to learn from it. But keeping a place like this thriving takes more than good intentions. Recent years have brought real challenges: fewer staff, tighter budgets, and shifting priorities at the national level. Even so, the work continues. Because the people here believe in what this park represents, not just for today's visitors, but for generations to come. To learn more or to get involved, visit the Friends of the Apostle Islands online. Because places like this endure when we care together. The Apostle Islands are more than dots on a map. They are echoes of an older world, shaped by fire and ice, carried forward by wind and water, and kept alive by those who remember. Each island has its own voice, its own stillness, its own way of telling the truth. When we walk their trails, paddle their shores, listen to their legends, we become part of the story too. The water remembers everything, and now, so do we.